Hi, my name is Catherine Menachino, and welcome to my channel, Elevate for Self-Love, where we discuss self-confidence, self-respect, self-love, and healing after toxic relationships. Today's topic is going to be a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset and power versus powerlessness. So, a lot of these things are related, and I'm going to talk about the relationship of these things. But before I get into today's topic, please subscribe to my channel by subscribing and then pressing the bell icon to be notified whenever I post a new video. In that way, you'll be able to get all the notifications and never miss something new. As far as today's topic goes, there's a lot of pieces to it. So when I was in a relationship with a narcissist or toxic individual, I felt very trapped and I felt like I was stifled. I was stifled from growth. And they didn't want to grow even though they said they did. And I couldn't grow because they were not willing to kind of grow with me. And I think a healthy relationship includes two people growing together. And if one person is more growth oriented, then the other person also needs to be, because an evolution of a relationship, at least a healthy relationship, the evolution should be continuous. And you're constantly both growing and evolving together, instead of growing apart, let's say, or not growing at all, which would eventually mean you're growing apart. So, there's the idea of a growth mindset, which people say it's like you're always trying to improve, you're trying to become a better person, you're trying to learn more, educate yourself in different ways. You might read books, you might go on YouTube and listen to different talks. You can research things on the internet. There's just so much that you can do, and try to work on your own flaws, your own shortcomings, your own issues that you know that you have. And ideally, your partner would do the same thing. Ideally, your partner would be also growth oriented. I believe in neuroplasticity. So that means that the brain can still change even at a later age. And, the brain doesn't just stop growing or changing. Like they used to think that back in the day, they used to think your brain was formed. It would just, at a certain point, it just stopped and you weren't able to change it. But now they know that with neuroplasticity, things can change. You can make new neural pathways depending on how you're thinking and what you're doing, your behavior and your thoughts. So that's exciting because it means that we can always improve and we can always change despite how, let's say, ingrained we are in our patterns and our habits. But some people just don't do it. So, there's the idea of a fixed mindset is the opposite of a growth mindset. And a fixed mindset is, it's just a lack of growth. So it's just, it's almost like a feeling of I can't change anything or I don't want to change anything. So it could be probably either one of those. It could be I don't want to change anything. I'm happy the way things are. I'm scared to change or don't want to put in the effort to change. And I just don't want to make any improvements to myself. And I'm just going to be happy in this comfort zone. So, fixed mindset is more like, this is my comfort zone. I'm okay with that. And, you're going to have to take me or leave me. So take it or leave it kind of approach to anyone else in their life. And, sometimes people with a fixed mindset will pretend to have a growth mindset, which is interesting because they'll say, yes, I really want to change or I want to improve this about myself, but they'll never actually take the steps to do so. They'll talk it and they'll talk about it, but they're never going to actually take the steps to go ahead and make those big changes in their behavior or their mindset and so forth. So that's two different ways of looking at life in general. And I know in my last relationship, the fixed mindset of my ex-boyfriend was definitely affecting my ability to grow. So I felt very trapped. I felt very stifled. I felt like on an energetic level or like an emotional level, I was feeling like I was stuck. And I mean, that also kind of, comes from a part of codependency where we get ourselves as codependents into a situation and then we're afraid to get out of it because we just don't know what's going to happen afterwards. We're afraid of the consequences. We become afraid and we kind of hunker down into this false sense of security because we're not actually secure in that relationship. We're just comfortable. So it's almost like a growth, we might want to have a growth mindset, but then we're with someone who doesn't have a growth mindset and we just sort of cater to them. And the relationship becomes stagnant. The relationship can become very toxic and the relationship can die because there's no growth really going on. There's no progression. There's no healthy, continuous evolution of the relationship. So in effect, it winds up dying because it's like malnourished. Basically, this bond and this connection that you have with this person is stifled from a lack of growth. So, I felt like when I was in that relationship that my growth wasn't allowed, and it was like as if I wanted to grow together, I was penalized. So, he didn't value growing actually emotionally. He didn't value growing together. He didn't value making healthy changes so that we could have a healthy relationship. He would rather just stay as he was because it suited him. At a certain point in time, he had all the power. I handed my power over to him. He made the decisions for the relationship on, if we were progressing, we were not progressing, if I had to wait for a period of time until we would progress, he'd make promises to me, we will progress after I achieve this in my life, or, we'll talk about that later, or I'm not ready for that, but I'll be ready in X amount of time when this happens. And so I was always like waiting on him to achieve or tell me when we could move forward, basically. And I was always afraid that he was going to end the relationship. So that was another piece that was a control issue because whenever he would get upset at something I said, he would often threaten to leave me or he would actually leave me. And so I became so, I guess, so insecure that he was going to leave me that I just became someone who wasn't going to rock the boat. So I tried to be very careful with what I said. I would sugarcoat everything and try to deliver any kind of, let's say, constructive criticism. I would try to deliver this in the nicest way possible. I would preface it with like a nice compliment, or I would also make sure it was at the right time because he always had this like fixation on that I was bringing things up all the time at the wrong time. So I didn't even know what the right time was because every time I tried to bring something up, it was wrong. It was like always the wrong time, right? And at that point, I barely could do anything right because every time I would and mention anything that he did that hurt me or disappointed me, then he would turn everything around and attack me. So he was never allowed to make a mistake and just own it and be okay with that. That didn't happen. So if essentially I gave so much power away because I was so afraid of losing the relationship. I was so afraid of losing this person out of my life, losing the potential of a future together that I thought was going to be good. But as time went on, I realized it was more like a dictatorship. Like he was like the dictator, and he called all the shots, and I was just like a person on the sidelines, just saying yes, yes, okay, we'll do that. Yes, okay. I didn't have any more an ability to have a sense of agency. So when you have a sense of agency, it's like it's a sense where you have a right to do something or have an opinion or weigh in on something, and you feel justified, like it's your right to do so, to be a participant, I guess you could say, or let's say, an equal partner. Unfortunately, in my situation, I didn't have that. And I always felt like he was making me less than a partner. He was effectively taking away my sense of agency, but I was really giving it away. I mean, it was both of us. He was trying to maintain complete control over the relationship and how it was run, the dynamic between us. The power had to be in his hands. He could never allow me to have an equal say in things. And I was willingly giving that away. So that's my part that I need to own, which is the codependency piece, right? Like, why did I give away my sense of agency and then, become what they would say is learned helplessness? So, they've done studies about like dogs, and they shock the dogs inside these cages, and then they unlock the cages and they shock the dogs again, and the dogs don't move. So that's what learned helplessness is. It's like you are now able to be free. You are able to get out or do something to save yourself, but you've now resigned yourself to freeze because you're so traumatized, and you don't even know that you can get out or do anything or have any sense of agency anymore. You're letting this other person or this other thing, this trauma, just control you. So that kind of plays into the trauma bond, right? We wind up being trauma bonded to these people and giving over so much control to them. And it's just like incredible how as adults we're giving away all this power to someone else, even though we are adults ourselves. And I think it definitely goes back to your childhood. It goes back to my childhood with codependency and wanting to be loved and having this concept of wanting to be loved, wanting to have a partner, which is natural and normal, and then thinking that if that person was unavailable to me emotionally or rejecting, that was normal, that was okay to excuse, that was okay to accept. Because of my childhood, I think that is it's been normalized to me, but it's not normal, and it's not okay, and it's not good. It's bad. And I kind of, for a long time with my ex-boyfriend, we dated, let's say, for over a year, and I didn't feel that I really saw that side of him. But it was only as things went on that his real feelings, I guess you could say, came out, which were, he resented me. I was so obvious, didn't want a future with me, didn't want to marry me. He was jealous of me. He competed with me. Like had to do the same things as me. Like he had to accomplish the same goals as me. So I had just bought a second house. Then he had to buy a house. He had never bought a house before. Then I have an Airbnb business. He had to start an Airbnb business. He had to renovate the house, which I had just done with my other house. So he was sort of like following in my footsteps, and it was like a competition, except I didn't know we were in competition. I had no idea. All my friends were pointing that out. They were like, this guy's like in competition with you. He keeps competing with you instead of you two joining forces and being like accomplishing things together. This guy actually just wants to like accomplish things by himself. And I would just question him, like, why are you doing all this stuff by yourself? Like, don't you want to have a future together? And, the story was originally, yes, he wanted to get married, he wanted to have a future, but ultimately that turned out to be a lie because his actions over time showed that he didn't. And, I know, was looking for some like Disney princess who's perfect, who's going to make all of his life great, and she's going to never fight with him and never find any fault with him. The issue with criticism was huge, and didn't consider myself a critical person with him, but I became critical because I was being criticized for criticizing him, and then I would be constantly in conflict with him because it was like, well, why can't you just accept that you did something that hurt my feelings? And then he would argue with me, and then I would be criticizing the fact that he was arguing with me. So I think emotional maturity and a real sense of love means that you're able to take a criticism from someone else that you care about because you care about their feelings. You care that they're hurt. You care that they are upset. You care that you did something that hurt them. And you're going to do your best not to do it again. It ties in with empathy. And so a lot of these toxic people don't have empathy. So when you're saying you hurt me, all they care about is how they're upset that you're accusing them of hurting you. They don't see your feelings or, you know, your point of view. Like they just don't care. And it's really sad that there's people out there like that. But after this experience, I get it that there are people out there like that. They just don't care about your feelings in the moment. It's all about them. It's all about how you're making them seem like a bad person. And they have like this kind of like weird black and white thinking. So it's like I remember if I would say like a criticism, which I would deliver it in the nicest way, like I said, like I would try my best to really like do it in a very kind and delicate way most of the time. I mean, there were sometimes, of course, I'm not perfect and I was upset and I didn't. But despite that, he just would always say to me, well, what about when I did that for you or this for you that were good things? And I would say, of course, those were great things. I appreciate those things. But it doesn't change the fact that you did X and you cursed me out, or you did this and you said something that was very rude and inconsiderate. So it was almost like there was this, it was almost like in his mind there was like a chart, and it was like plus and minus. And if he did anything on the minus side, it just crossed out the plus stuff. Like if he did anything negative, anything positive that he had done became irrelevant. So it was like he painted himself all black. And that's this kind of black and white thinking that's very extreme. And I had never experienced that with anyone before. So I didn't know what was going on. So I'm trying to convince him, no, I love you. I'm upset that you cursed me out, or I'm upset that you did this. And, I just don't want you to do that anymore. And he would just turn it around and start talking about my flaws and my mistakes, and just also justified by saying he had done many good things. And again, he did do many good things for me. There's no doubt that he did. It's just that the fact that he was doing these very negative, hurtful things without any kind of remorse was shocking to me and scary and, just really unhealthy for me to be in. I should have realized that I needed to exit right away and stop having faith that this person was going to improve, let's say. So, I began calling him dictator, which I can laugh about it now. I mean, that became my name for him with my friends, because they all thought he was just so controlling as far as the relationship goes. And it was hard because it was a very constrictive type of relationship. I think I reverted to a childhood version of myself in a lot of ways. I became this very complacent, subservient child, looking for love, looking for attention. It was like basically triggering all my childhood wounds. And I'm going to do a video about triggers soon, so stay tuned for that. But it definitely triggered me into this childhood version of myself. And, as an adult, that's not the place I want to be. I'd like to be in a place where I have control, as much as is healthily necessary. It's something, I'm not talking about controlling in an unnecessary way, but something that's healthy. And I would like to feel I have a sense of agency. I would like to feel that my partner is going to grow along with me, like that, two people need to be whole, healthy, and complete, and then they need to come together and then need to go forward in a relationship as two people growing. And then, like if one person is growing and the other person's not, it's not going to work. You're going to go in separate directions. So that's part of the reason why my relationship had failed as well. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about control and a sense of learned helplessness, and that if you feel this stifling kind of feeling within a relationship, that you should exit, and you should not be staying in something that is making you feel bad, that's making you wake up and have this heavy heart. Because I remember that happened to me. I'd be waking up every morning with a heavy heart. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Again, like it if it resonated with you, and share with your friends. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and press the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.